guys. How do you see this one, Scoots?
Can we not call this one? This one might be too close to call.
It's not like you guys are right anyway.
In their favor, if you will, is they just played the map. And Universal Soldiers did not, obviously, right? I think it's going to be a hell of a match. I really, really do. I mean, this is like Clash of the Titans. This is the kind of stuff why we're here. I am picking Nip though.
Let's take a look at the Universal Soldiers lineup.
Okay, doke. So I'll mix it up a bit this time. Okay, the newest member, the guy who's still got a lot to prove, Bali. Snacks. I won't go the route I did before. He actually was considered quite a promising player. Like, here's a little secret piece of information. He's actually a player that the Poles wanted to recruit and thought about when they were thinking about removing a player in the past. But then they kept that old lineup because it was so storied, and they really wanted to let it run its course. So he might have actually been like a Pasha and had his time, gotten blooded early, and maybe he could have become a Pasha-type player. You know the other players, the three from the second Golden 5 era, and there's Universal Soldiers.
All right, and we're going to head on down to the tournament floor to have a little chat with the most golden guy from the Golden 5, Neo.
All right, appreciate that. Thanks, BSL. Now we're down here with Neo. We watched that last matchup there against iBuyPower. You came out. It's actually really interesting to me. The fact is you lost pistol round, and then you won the second round. How'd that happen?
We just did good strategy. Like, we played a standard, like default setup, and then we've seen what they've been doing, and then we just stopped them. So we usually lose second rounds after winning pistol rounds. This time it was different. So we were happy about that. That gave us a boost of motivation after the winning eco round.
So what was some of the trends? What are the things that you saw happen time and time again from iBuyPower there whenever they were on the terrorist side?
They've won gun rounds only going through the middle. So we knew we have to focus on the middle first and then just see how it goes. So we just tried to stick to that, and it worked pretty well. So
let's go ahead and jump into the second half there. We saw your aggressive playing style there on the terrorist side. Did you notice there was a weakness there?
Not really. We just tried to start with our default style, the aggressive one, and since it's been working pretty well, so we decided to keep doing that. And we should have finished the game earlier, but still we are satisfied of the result.
Yeah, so we heard Exist say the exact same thing, that they should have finished off the game earlier. Does it make you feel a little bit better knowing that NIP, facing off against Recursive, it went to 16-13 there at the end?
Not really. I think it doesn't matter that much. We know they are a very strong team, and it's not going to be easy. So their result doesn't matter.
So looking at it, going into this next matchup, what do you see, what do you think that you need to do against NIP going forward?
We just have to be 100% focused and play our game, and have some luck, of course. Otherwise, it's going to be hard.
So I'm going to talk about one moment. I don't know if Pasha told you about it, but over there on Catwalk, there's a smoke grenade that popped, and there's 3 players. Whenever he picked up those 3 kills, did he tell you how that happened during that moment?
I was dead already, and I was watching it from his perspective. So, yeah, that was really amazing round for him.
So a little bit of luck, right? That's what you need. So sometimes that does help you pan out. So let's go ahead. You have any last things that you want to say?
No, just have fun watching.
Well, good luck, have fun, and right back to the studio, guys.
Thank you, Corey. We're going to have some minutes here before the match will start. So we're going to talk a little bit about history, because there is so much history between these two teams, or at least some of the players and the most famous players of these two teams. Duncan, can you give us some insight into the most important storylines between Get Right Forest, Neo, and Taz?
Yeah. I mean, those 4 players in particular, so those 2 dynamic duos. First of all, we referenced this match earlier, actually. When the 2009 Fnatic era, okay, this team, Fnatic, the famous story about them was they never used to win the major tournaments before they had Get Right. They used to always win all the medium tournaments. Everyone would be like the best team in the world, first, third, second, first. Then when it came to the big major tournament, they'd only won something like 1. And meanwhile, the Poles, terribly inconsistent, 8th, 13th, 7th, 5th, they would always win the majors. It was like inverted teams, and that's because of the makeups of the teams. You know, one was like not so skilled, but really good at these amazing comebacks and somehow doing it in the big moment. The other one was so incredibly skilled, maybe not always as clutch, but just the skill carried them through to all these wins. Now, one year, Fnatic 2009, they had it all. They had such a dominant run that they won the first major of the year, the IEM, okay? And in the final of the IEM, they met the Poles, the Golden Five, the first one, who'd won all these majors. And this time, they bested them. They beat them in the final, and that started the Fnatic 2009 era. Fnatic won practically everything that year. Then came the last major of the year, World Cyber Games. None of these Swedish players had ever won a World Cyber Games. The Poles, they'd already won them before. It came to this final, we mentioned before, it was an epic game. Somehow the Poles won. People forget, the first map was impossible to win. I'll tell you the storyline. Nuke was an incredibly CT-sided map, okay? I think Fnatic were at something ridiculous, like 15 to 12 or something. Something insane like that. And they had an incredible CT team. They had all this skill, Gox, Gerrit, amazing Nuke players. You can't win this scenario. Here's the storyline that actually happened. The Poles told me this. What happened was their tactics weren't working. So what they said was, okay, just play free-for-all style. They didn't even communicate. They just said, like, I'm going to go to the, I'm going to go to the squeaky door. Okay, well, I'll go ramp, and then I'll kill this guy out rock, and then how can you read that, though? If that works, then you don't know. Oh, they're attacking me at the door. It's going to be an up. No, it isn't, because they don't know what they're going to do. And somehow, through the magic of this team, they won the game. They took that title away from them. So that started off the amazing history there. You see, like, they go back and forwards.
Do you chalk that up to chemistry between the players?
There was just something. There's certain teams where on paper they look incredible, and then in the server they're just not so good. There's other teams where you look on paper and you're like, okay, it's a decent team. But then when you look in the server, you're like, this is better. I don't understand on paper.
Yeah.
Not as skilled, but somehow more than the sum of their parts. That was the ultimate team there. I always thought for all the great teams, they had the least actual raw skill of them. Sure, Neo makes up for that in one person, but across the team, you know, they didn't have a whole load of star players, but they could just get it done, man. Everyone had their role.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting, where the storyline gets interesting there, is that the Poles actually dominated that specific matchup from there on out. Because then, Forrest and Get Right, they had this... In 2010, neither team was really on top. It was Navi's year. They were all taking a back seat. 2011, here's what's interesting, okay. Early on, the Poles were dominating SK. Then in the middle of the year, SK got Delpan, and so the Forrest and Get Right combo, they were the best team of the year for the middle part. It looked like they've got it locked up, team of the year. At the end, the Poles came in, beat them in every matchup in a row. They beat them in the E-Stars final. They beat them in, let me think, of a whole bunch of finals. And crucially, the WCG final, another game impossible to win. Third map, it was Tuscan. Tuscan was an incredibly T-sided map. And they were on CT side, and they were down something like, I think it was 12 to 12. So there was only 6 rounds remaining in the game. And they were like really low on money. And basically, in that scenario, you should lose because it's such a T-sided map. Again, they come back, they won 16-14. See the same storyline happening again. These amazing players, Neo and Forrest, Get Right and Forrest, were always there with the talent. But then in the big moment, sometimes they couldn't always do it. And then the other players, the Poles, somehow always came through.
I think, just while we're still on the topic of these guys, the Golden Five, there is no set of players in the history of Counter-Strike that has been more screwed over by more team organizations and still kicked everyone's ass day in and day out. I mean, the hassles they went through, like they're still owed so much money from so many organizations that throw events as well as teams that promise them the moon, that I think we're all very lucky that they survived as long as they did and just kept doing it, you know. And it's actually really cool to see them like embracing the new game.
And provide so much great esports entertainment for everyone.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Neo and Taz have not been as successful yet in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, whereas Forrest and Get Right, they've gone on a run where they won 87 maps in a row without losing anything. What does that do to your head and the whole, because they're bound to think when they're facing Get Right and Forrest, I beat these guys before, I used to have these guys' number, but now they're in a game where the strength between the teams are result-wise, are a lot better. How does that play into their heads, you think?
I think for these guys, it doesn't.
You think they're so tough?
They're ready to rock and roll. Because again, at the very beginning of Go, you had Neo, who people were like already blessing as the second coming again. And again, he's stumbled since then, so to speak. Stumbled, right? But I don't think that kind of stuff enters in these guys' minds. They just, here they go again. We're playing Fnatic 2.0, kind of sort of halfway.
All right, and we're playing on Inferno, where NIP will start as terrorists, and we just saw they had some problems loading up terrorist rounds against Recursive of France. Does that translate between the two matches? It's been half an hour, it's been 45 minutes. Does them having problems on T side 45 minutes ago have anything to do with them having problems now, or do you expect a totally different NIP team to come out of the gate against the Poles?
I actually expect a different one. I'd think of it this way. Okay, first of all, they won that game still, remember? It's not like they lost it.
Yep.
So that's almost like a free warm-up / debugging. Okay, certain things didn't work on T-side. We got things wrong. You know, when you went there, do that instead. The Poles don't have the luxury of that. They just played Dust 2. That doesn't translate. They can't take the mistakes they made and apply them here. So actually, that's an advantage to NIP, I think. Secondly, when you were mentioning there, in 1.6, part of the reason why almost these scenarios used to go to the Poles was in the back of both teams' minds. It's like, oh, the Poles always get us somehow. And they were like, don't worry, somehow we'll always come back. In CSGO, not only are NIP so dominant, they've only lost in history to 4 lineups ever. And the Poles weren't one of them. Let me just put that out there.
Yeah.
So it's the reverse. Now it's like, we've never beat them.
But, and this is the biggest tournament in history, and the Poles have never beaten NIP.
Well, there's never been a major in CSGO before. Remember what I said before? They were never the great teams at the medium events, but somehow at the majors they came and rose up, you know.
So this is what I'm getting at. Is this the time where Neo and TAS finally breaks through in CSGO, or do you expect NIP to steamroll them?
I mean, I'm just a guy where I don't claim to be psychic, so I just go with like what I've seen already. So from what I've seen already, I don't think they steamroll them.
Yeah.
I think we're looking at like 16-9, 16-8, around this sort of range. They comfortably win. The Poles have a few punches there. They have something to offer, but this is NIP. There's only one team at the moment that has NIP's number, and it ain't the Poles.
And just speaking of that, the downside of that is when you're at the top, all you can do is come down, right? The pressure, I mean, you can just, you all can't see, but maybe you can when they shine the cameras around. The crowd behind NIP is crazy. And like, so they've got this whole audience that follows them everywhere. I mean, they're the hype machine. They've got a TV crew following them. So pressure is on them. Neo and Gang should just go play some good old Counter-Strike. And like, they don't have that pressure. I mean, internally they'll have pressure, of course. But I think, again, I'm going to pick NIP, but I don't think it's going to be a steamroll at all. I think it's going to be really close.
And to be fair, the format of this tournament actually means that maybe the Poles can play a bit looser. Because remember, it's the double elimination format. They just beat probably the second best team in the group. So if they go ahead and lose here, well, maybe they can just beat the French or they can beat the Americans.
I got to ask Thorin that talks about this. And we mentioned it
yeah.
earlier, but this is actually a really good one. So Bane Benesco. Nice. That's really
Bene or something?
That's really Bane
sure, yeah.
Benesco. You really were creative on that. And his Twitter is CZTZ Mezer. Anyway, he asks, why did the organizers decide to do this upper bracket, lower bracket group stage, and why not the normal everybody plays everybody round robin like we're used? Because it is, for if you've watched a lot of Counter-Strike over the years, like this is not the group play system that we're all used to.
No, it's a little weird for everybody,
Yep.
I'm sure.
There were a lot of problems with the group stage system that we just ignored because we took it for granted it had to be that way. The biggest problem actually comes from having it was always 4-team groups. Say you had 8 teams in a group, so you play 7 matches against all these opponents, that probably nearly always will yield the best teams come out. But if you only play 3 maps, best of 1, just 3 single maps, you get all these funky scenarios that are actually unfair to certain teams in the group. It's not that you play everyone so it's fair. First of all, you have the scenario I described before. A team kind of won 2 games, a team kind of lost 2 games. Now you have a meaningless game.
Yep.
Because you play 6 games overall. You only play 5 in this system because the team who's out like that isn't there and the team who's up is gone. Now also, here's what else is interesting. You could have these scenarios that were really unfair where in my first match, I play against the worst team in the group, okay? So I thrash them. And it comes to a scenario where there's going to be 2 teams battling for the second spot, but another team has thrashed, they've won 2-0 and they're going to make it through for sure. They're already guaranteed. Now, they happen to be playing versus my opponent. Remember, I played the good team first. Maybe because they're already through, their heart isn't in it. Naturally, they're already through. So somehow they lose to that guy, and now I'm out, basically, because they didn't play their best. Whereas, meanwhile, in reverse, the scenario happens where if the reverse happens, now I'm having to play my absolute best at the end. Meanwhile, they've had the same scenario. So it can be unfair which order you play them in.
So what you're saying is that you think that this system makes for more interesting matches?
Yeah.
as a whole.
Well, and every match counts. You
Yeah,
know,
That's what's beautiful, yeah.
And I think over the years it was always like, okay, we've got a three-way tie. How does this league break the tie? Is it point differential? Is it rounds one and the guy threw the rounds because he didn't give
Exactly.
a shit?
'Cause
So
this
all that
always
goes
got
away.
chaotic.
You win, you go forward. You lose, you go home.
That's what I
No
mean,
ifs,
by
ands,
the
or
way.
buts.
The problem with CS is we never had a real tiebreaker situation because you can't use overtime
Yeah.
in these best of ones. And the problem was, what I was meaning by that of the round situation is that you would end up with these scenarios where when we play, okay, let's say we both end tied, well, like I said, you play the team who's already gone through on their wins, so they give up too many rounds to you, and now you go through just because they didn't try as hard, but they still won the game. Now, vice versa, in this system, that's impossible. We don't even count rounds. We can play overtimes. We just play until they're
I
through.
mean, we used to call them garbage rounds because, you know,
Yep.
they just really didn't count, but they could actually
And also,
decide someone's fate,
here's
which was
another
really
thing
weird.
that's weird. We used to count rounds difference, and yet they didn't all play the same maps. So, okay, first game, I start train, I win 16-5 because I was on CT side, I won 13-2. Now, last game, you're playing for your survival, and you play as Inferno.
Aztec, you almost said.
Inferno, the most balanced map, and that's incredibly likely to yield like a 6-8, 6-10. So immediately you have an unfair advantage, even though you might not have played better. Okay. And also, what I like about this format here is that we've seen from the way it's played out in StarCraft, it just the best. It does decide the better player more often. It doesn't have any of these weird factors like who played who first, or it's just who won two, who lost two. That's it.
Yep.
And I'm going to change gears a little bit here. You talked about NIP's TV crew following them around. Obviously, everybody knows there's a reality series now following NIP, the most successful team of all time. How does that play into your preparations going into what is essentially the biggest tournament in history with $100,000 for first prize?
I mean, I think it definitely adds a backpack full of pressure on these guys. You know.
But these are guys that have been living with pressure for
Yeah,
years.
and actually, you know, it can be a motivator. It can be a very positive reinforcement to your gameplay. Like, you want that monkey on your back sometimes. But if you're one of those guys that, you know, that, like, get out of my face, you know. And again, I don't know how their scrims have been going or, you know, but in my time at EG, we had a couple documentary crews follow us around. And it tweaks you a little bit, you know. It changes your behaviors. You know, you can say, okay, I ignore the cameras, but you really can't. And again, they are the team to beat. There's nowhere to go for them but to lose, right? So it can go both ways. I think for NIP, they turn it into a positive pressure versus a negative.
What do you think about the whole TV crew
When
situation?
I first heard about it, that actually was something that interested me because I only heard recently, I think the news only came out a few days ago, okay, there'll be a reality TV show, they'll be filming it, it's going to come out this day, or it'll air on this day.
Yeah, and I think 2 episodes are out so
the
far.
first thing I thought was, wait a minute, when did they start this TV show? Because NIP all of a sudden has had a 3-event losing streak. They never had a more than 2 events. They never had a 2-event losing streak. It never happened before. Now they've had 3 in a row, so there's some factors off. And like I referenced a bit earlier, the one player in their team you always knew would play consistently well was Get Right. His style of play engenders this safe, consistent style. He was the player playing the worst of the stars in their team. So he's a bit off. Suddenly there's this camera crew involved. Now listen, in a normal match, Get Right's, he's a gamer. He's got heart. But this is a different type of pressure. He's never experienced this. And I know Get Right's a very emotional player, okay? Certain players, like a Neo, or I think of any of these great players, some of them just have a natural confidence where it even comes into their personality out of the game, okay? If you say they're rubbish, they're like, well, we'll see in the game, you know? My game will speak for myself. Get Right's a guy where he has the superstar talent, but he's a little bit fragile sometimes. You know, he's very emotional. He cares what people think about him. He doesn't like it when fans say, oh, you play for stats or something. You know what I mean? He doesn't like if fans say, oh, you just ride Forrest's coattails.
He's probably one of the most approachable stars.
But these things can shake him, you know.
Yep.
And so that's why I wonder, is this playing a factor? Now, this is a great chance for them to prove me wrong. Like, that's not a factor. That was just before. Now we win with the cameras following us. But if they lose, then it's starting to creep into, like, what's this doing to NIP?
What can you tell us about the map situation here?
Okay, so the map will be Inferno. Here's the key thing. Like I said before, NIP, it's one of the maps you can beat them on. This is one that they do lose, but they're still very good on it. Now, Universal Soldiers also have never beaten them on it, by the way. I'll just point that out to begin with. But Universal Soldiers, there's some positives for them. With this new lineup, they had a game against Na'Vi. I think it was EMS, the last EMS, they crushed Na'Vi 16-5 on Inferno. So they have some skills on Inferno. I think they don't mind playing Inferno. It's a map they've played a lot. So again, it's doable, but it's NIP. Almost, they're so crazy that unless you're talking very games, unless you're talking Star Dragons, they actually have a favorite. They're a favorite on every map against every team. So you've got to go with the numbers on that.
What's it going to take for the Universal Soldiers to beat NIP now? Do you need the two sort of unknown players to step up, or do you need Neo to come back to his 1.6 grandeur, or do you need Taz to play like he did once he started playing CS:GO? Because he was really, really good for a while there, and he's been having trouble ever since. What's it going to take?
For me, it is Neo, okay? Because like I say, for me, Taz is the consistent one. I know what he's going to bring. He's going to bring a good game, okay? But he's going to take them so far, Neo can put them over the top. Now, can Neo be the Neo of 1.6? I think that's been the problem. It's that the question's never been positively answered. Because the problem was, Neo of 1.6 wasn't just a very good player. He was like a very good player plus something else. Now he's just a very good player. So people can beat him even when he's playing at his best. Before, if Neo or Forest played at their best, you just lost. You could play your best, it doesn't matter. They've done too much, you know. Whereas on this team, like I was saying before with the iBioPower team, when they start losing, they're looking around like, who's going to be the guy who's going to lead us now? If Neo does well and Taz is doing well, it automatically takes pressure off those other guys.
Yeah.
Now they're like, oh, I just do my job, you know. I don't even have to be a star. I just do my job, and then it makes everything happen.
We just saw a highlight clip also from Pasha, who had a tremendous round there on short on Dust 2. Is he underrated in the shadow of Taz and Neo?
Towards the end of 1.6, that was starting to happen, actually. Well, their team...
How good is he?
Well, in 1.6, he'd gotten to be... He was on the verge of being a star. He was like breaking into that mold, but he hadn't quite gotten there. He was actually the MVP of an IEM World Championship they won. In CSGO, I think he was one of the players who struggled as well. We were mainly watching Neo because it's Neo, but he was one of the players who initially struggled to get his form. Part of that's like the AWP is so different. His style in 1.6, I don't think anyone can replicate that in any other type of game. He was in a very aggressive AWPer as terrorist or CT. Like he would rush up the middle of the ramp on Dust 2 as CT with an AWP and kill you point blank. No one does that. You play back with the AWP. That's the opposite. You can never prepare for someone that you've never played against that style. Now in CSGO, he's a bit more an all-rounder, a bit more rifles now. So he's someone who can be an X factor too, but I don't know that I've seen him get to that level where I can call him a star.
Stylistically, how did these two teams match up? Poles being more aggressive, NIP hanging back. How do you expect the game to unfold stylistically?
That's why Get Right is the key, because the beauty of why NIP works when they're on top is everyone else, there's degrees of aggression, okay? Forrest, he's so amazing, he always goes in first, you know, he'll headshot you instantly. Freiburg, he likes to use the aggressive moves to make up for maybe not being as good as a Forrest or someone. Element of surprise. Fifth Lauren's going to be more in the middle with Exist, because Exist's calling, they're going to be the middle guys, and they actually design their team. In most teams, if you wait behind and let your teammates die, you're actually selfish. Get Right's the most selfish, unselfish player. He does that because that's his role in the team. He's amazing at winning 1vx. Most star players like to take risks. He likes to wait, and then he'll win the 1vx because, first of all, he's really clutch, and he's got these mad skills. So it just takes him to another level. So, again, if he's off, that throws that end part off. Suddenly you're getting into those 1vx, and he'll keep losing over and over. If he's on, then you can die, and he can still take you back and win the round.
What do you think about Exist as a strat caller? I mean, you've seen a lot of great strat callers over the years. What kind of style does he have? I mean, you've probably seen strat callers yelling, standing up, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and the other ones who are just typing. How does he fit in?
I think he's kind of middle of the road. You don't necessarily... it seems like Nip is going to show you some emotion more when they're winning and a little more quiet when they're down. And he doesn't seem to be that loud, obnoxious, like rah, rah, rah in-game leader. I think he's more the calm, cool, and collected one. And again, lets his teammates let their guns speak more than their voices, you know. And again, it'll be very interesting when they weren't losing, but when they were giving those rounds up, you know, they were steady as the course. You know, they weren't freaking out about it. And again, I think champions don't get flustered. You know, you learn from the mistake of the round before. You forget about it very quickly. You don't dwell on it. You know, and I think he's again. I think he's gonna nail it.
All right, we're ready for NIP against Universal Soldiers on Inferno. Let's take it over to our two beautiful casters in the purple shirt and with that lovely mustache, is Lurpis and Tosspot.
Who you picking? Yep. So that's gonna be it.
Who knew Kobe Bryant knew so much about Counter-Strike?
Not me.
Not me either. And that old guy that's with him, genius.
Yeah. No one could have guessed that either.
No.
I think actually it's more likely that Kobe knows about Counter-Strike than someone Scott saying.
So if we take a look, we've got 30 seconds to get all that you've got to give us, Lurpus. NIP, they were the number one for so long, but can they reclaim that position?
They very well might be able to. And, I mean, obviously, this isn't really a step towards that because they're still very big favorites against Universal Soldiers, at least. I would say at least 70-30, if not more. However, they didn't look very good on the terrorist side of Inferno, which is what they're going to be starting on. They really struggled to get those 2 weapon rounds after going up 14-4 against Recursive in their previous game. And Universal Soldiers isn't a bad team. They've been very good ever since they created the new roster. So we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, it's not out of this world that US could surprise NIP. It's just not likely.
Now to Neo's statement earlier of we're not very well prepared, we don't feel like we've practiced enough. I talked to Heaton earlier on, and Heaton turned around to me and said, we're the most prepared we've ever been. So when you go out with a bold statement like that, you've got to expect something big. We're about ready to start the pistol round. You guys can look at us a little bit more, though. We're very attractive. There's a thread about your mustache on HLTV.
A lot of replies.
A lot of replies.
Surprisingly many people care.
There you go. One more time. Why?
It's like
November.
I think it's like 130 more people care than I expected, which is 0.
You're raising money for charity. You're being a hero. You're being better than I am. Anyway, as we are ready to get this one underway, we're not.
No, we got the server full of bots.
We lost all the players suddenly.
Except Get Right. Get Right just won't go away.
We were about to stop. We were about to get excited, but now we will come back. Let's come back to you. Interesting conversation the analysts were having about the documentary crew. Every time I've ever seen a documentary crew come in esports, the team's lost.
Except because we talked about this on, I think, either on podcast or after that when we kept talking with Karn and Thorin. The only time that hasn't happened, I think, is when Fnatic had the documentary crew following them for Eurosports in Shanghai, and they actually managed to win a global challenge for IEM. But I mean, most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I think of the most recent esports one, and this goes outside of Counter-Strike, the TSM one, from the moment that started, they fell off a cliff. I remember the ones previously in CS, some of the Quake ones that happened. Whenever you put that camera right behind someone at all times, they go inside a box. They stop. They stop being who they are. Maybe they can buck the trend, and they've got to, because for $250,000 prize purse, it's maybe not worth that documentary.
It really isn't. I mean, it's like Thorin said on podcasts, like, this is the one time of the year I would not have documentary crews follow me. There's no way, if I'm NIP's management, I okay a documentary, even if it gets me a little bit of extra dough, unless that's substantial enough that it will make up for losing this tournament. Because why take that risk? Why would you add something? Why would you add more variables to the function at this point? You just want to keep it the way it is. You want to keep winning. You've been winning for a year. Why mess with it?
Yeah, and normally this happens, the team, the organization benefits from it, not the players.
Yeah.
The players normally are like, I don't want this. I want to win tournaments. I get paid by winning tournaments. So we had a disconnect. I couldn't actually read. A lady came along with a sign. I was like, couldn't actually read what happened. Some form of a disconnect somewhere. So you're back with us. And your observations of the tournament that far. The game against NIP versus Recursive. From what I read, it was Kenny S, doing what Kenny S does, just being a nuisance and being difficult.
Yeah, but something you have to consider is that NIP were up 14-4 when they finally started losing around. So there's always a possibility that NIP sort of took their foot off the pedal and just started kind of chilling and hoping they would just get those 2 rounds. And then once it got a little closer, they started trying harder. I mean, obviously, impressive by the Frenchmen to get that close. But every single time the favorite team goes up very big early on, you have to take the result with a grain of salt because you just don't know what's really going on there.
Have you seen anything out there on the floor today that's kind of impressed you, surprised you, made you think, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting?
Well, I've only spent like 30 minutes on the floor for every other game I've been here. So I'm not sure. I mean, I was mostly watching iBuyPower, and then towards the end I started watching the NIP game while I was on break. Haven't really seen all that much, just Counter-Strike.
And you stayed positive. You and Thorin have stayed, immensely positive about all things CS:GO today. We're
always positive.
Yeah?
Yeah, people twist our words.
They do. Particularly that @CS:GO dev guy. He twists your words, those tweets you send him. He's here. He's here. @CS:GO dev is here. Tweet him. Tell him you love him because he looked at Lurpus and he wanted to cry. I kid. So, we're filling. We're doing well. we do have a server backup now, it looks like, as we wait on players reconnecting to it. We lost, and I can see actually some of the Universal Soldier guys don't have headsets on set down, so looks like still a few minutes left to go. Obviously, if you're joining us, there's another game ongoing. Not that I would advertise leaving us, but just if you wanted to just check in, there is another game with the great Anders and Semler going on Stream B right now. So there's entertainment coming at you. All the games are casted. You don't miss a click of the action here. And that kind of takes us to an interesting juncture. You're going to get to see 50